The Tesla Model X is a huge, pure electric SUV that will officially do more than 300 miles to a charge and can be had with 5, 6 or 7 seat layouts.
Most people thinking about buying the Tesla will be wondering whether it can really be good enough to justify a price of more than £90,000, and of course, how far is it really going to go in the real world to a single charge? So, is it all fancy doors and supercar slaying acceleration? Or is this seriously a genuine rival to cars like the Volvo XC90 and Audi Q7? Well, that is what we are here to find out.
Plugging the Tesla in is easy. You get a 3-pin domestic and Type 2 plug, as well as an industrial plug that will be useful at campsites or industrial sites. Just charge it up by connecting to the socket at the back of the car. You can actually open the flap by pressing a button on the cable itself, which is something that every official manufacturer cable should do in my books, or you can unlock it via the screen. The Tesla has a 100 kilowatt-hour battery, which is one of the biggest available currently, so it's no surprise that it'll take 36 hours or more to charge up via the 3-pin plug at your house. However, most Tesla owners will have access to a home charger of 7 kilowatt or more, which will do a full charge in some 11 hours.
One massive perk to having a Tesla instead of any of its rival electric cars is this, the Tesla Supercharger network. Now this is essentially, it's a network of super fast chargers that are Tesla only, and now they're becoming very common actually on a lot of the major motorways. So very easy to use, you just take it out and plug it in just like that. And it's so fast that it will charge up the 100D from 20 to 80% in around about 40 minutes, which is really good. Now, cost. It used to be free, but it's not anymore. So these days Tesla reckons you'll pay an average of 24 pence per kilowatt hour to fill up at a Tesla Supercharger. And that works out at around about £15 for 170 miles more range. And that is still actually really good compared to petrol prices, and actually very competitive compared to other public charging services. So, in that respect, the Tesla Supercharger network is definitely a significant bonus to having this car.
What's less ideal is that you have to pay extra to get a converter to allow you to plug into a normal CCS public rapid charger of 50 kilowatts or more. But at least the Model X's standard Type 2 socket and cable does give you access to most other public chargers.
So if you're familiar with YouTube, or frankly the internet, you probably will have seen the Tesla Model X do some crazy drag race antics at some point, destroying supercars and the like with absolutely no problem at all. Now, that model that you've seen in those videos is the P100D, which is the top spec one. Now, that actually gets the same 100 kilowatt hour battery and 4-wheel drive system that we have here in the 100D, which is the only other model available. So they're not cheap cars, but the P100D will do 0 to 62 in under 3 seconds. And even this 100D, as the, poor man's Model X, is going to do it in under 5 seconds. It's nuts. And I tell you what, I mean, I'm already doing 50 miles an hour here, and you can floor it, and you feel really, it pins you to the seat. It's the torque delivery is just crazy, because it just piles in. And this is never a difficult car to drive. It's always smooth, quite easy to modulate. All the control weights are really intuitive. It's very easy to drive. But what I would say is that you are conscious of how big it is. I mean, this is a vast car. You're expecting it to kind of gather moons as you drive along or something. It's just enormous. Granted, the visibility is pretty good, so it's actually not that difficult to judge, even in sort of narrow streets and car parks and that sort of thing. But you're very conscious of the weight and the size of it, so that does tend to characterise the car, as does the generally sort of very unsubtle nature of its power delivery and its handling, because this thing, the way it goes around corners, is just equally blunt. I mean, just throw it into a corner, and the way it grips, the speed you can carry is bonkers. And it's just flat out neutral. You can fling it around at crazy speeds through corners, and it's just, the poker face never slips. It's comfortable, it's smooth, it's easy to drive, and then when you want it to be, it is absolutely nuts.
So while the Model X is short on delicacy, if quite the point-to-point weapon, it is quite impressive for driving range. You can expect around 250 to 280 miles out of it in normal use, or realistically in cold weather with a lot of motorway miles, you will see the range drop to around about 230 miles.
Now, Tesla does have a bit of a questionable reputation for build quality, but I have to say, this particular Model X actually feels really good. All the panel gaps are nice, all the materials feel lovely. Obviously it's got this optional carbon fibre, which is great, But anyway, the interior in this car feels really good. Seats are comfy, visibility is good of course, and you get this standard panoramic windscreen with the Model X, which is great. In fact, equipment generally is pretty good, although you can go to town with all sorts of things, including the autopilot system that Tesla's quite famous for, and which is pretty much the best autonomous system out there. Not only that, it's a really practical interior. I mean, I think short of a van, this has to be about the most spacious vehicle you can buy. And of course you can get it in 5-seat, 6-seat, like we've actually got here, or you can get a 7-seat layout as well, in which case you would get a middle seat between those two middle seats that we have here. It really is a hugely practical family car.
Not only do you get the extravagant, if slightly annoyingly slow, falcon wing doors, which open upwards to give really good access even in tight spaces, you also get enough boot space behind the third row of seats to get a decent amount of shopping, plus useful underfloor storage. You can also have 4 sets of ISOFIX fittings, and the Model X comes as standard with a tow bar that'll let you pull up to 2,250 kilos. Practicality isn't perhaps the first thing that the Model X is associated with, but it probably should be. It really is an outstanding large family SUV. Only the fact that the middle row of seats don't fold flat count against it, and also that full-size 7-seat rivals like the Land Rover Discovery do offer better space in the rearmost seats.
So maybe the S did set the bar a bit high, because frankly the X just isn't as good to drive. But by the standards of the 7-seat SUV class, it's great. It's fast, it's smooth, and not only that, it's practical. It's absolutely vast. It's just really well thought out. You can tow a caravan with it, get all the kids in it you could want, you can pick your seating layout. It's great. And of course it has got that top-notch feel that does help to justify the price, particularly with this 100D model. So yes, check out the Volvo XC90 T8 because it's usefully cheaper, almost as practical really, and you get some electric running. But if you want a pure electric family SUV, this is in a class of its own, and it is a mighty good class. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, and head to DrivingElectric.com for loads more reviews, advice and news on all of the electric and hybrid cars on sale.